Welcome back to It's Your Money Radio, where you can make more money, or you can save more money and have more money and make more money for all your financial goals.
You were right the first time.
I was right. I know I was. And then I messed it up the second time. Take a shot, guys. We always say you can have that. That's what you do. Well, let's talk about Gala Scribner for just a minute. Scribner Solutions. It's a virtual assistance company who can help small businesses with their communications to their customers and prospects. Gala's the owner. Her and her team of virtual assistants work behind the scenes to take care of the details so you can work on growing your business. You don't have to mess with that other stuff. Virtual assistants, great, affordable alternative to hiring someone full or part-time. Scribner Solution team can help you with things like social media posts, website updates, blog post writing and formatting, e-newsletters, direct mail newsletters, direct mail design and printing, and podcast editing and posting. So she can do those things. If you're growing a small business, you haven't heard of what a virtual assistant is or what they can do for you, it's worth going to her website at Scribner Solutions, SCRIVENER, solutions.com. Download their free book, 5 Things You Must Know Before Hiring a Virtual Assistant. Scribner Solutions is there to help you accomplish more. And so, as far as that goes, John and I are very familiar with Gala and what she does. She works for me and my company all the time. She's great. So if you want to have someone really to help you with your social media, you don't want to mess with that. Guys, I'm an old guy, and you think social media just is, that's for the young kids. They're also the ones that spend the money. They're also the ones that are buying stuff. They're also the ones that are sadly getting divorced. But what I'm saying is, if you don't think that social media works, give it a try. And she's a great intro to social media, very well versed in that. We're going to go ahead and take another commercial. We'll be back, and when we come back, we'll be talking with Austin Williamson about divorce. Welcome back to It's Your Money Radio, where you can make more money, you can have more money, and you can save more money and have more money for all your financial goals. And I messed up again. I did so good last week. It's the beginning of the year. We have to go back and bumble through till the last show of the year.
That's all right.
Go ahead, John. I know
we do all those things, but today we're talking about divorce. We have a local divorce attorney from Rooney, McBride and Smith. Austin Williamson is here. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I appreciate you having me on here today. My name is Austin Williamson. I'm actually grew up here in the West Plains area and moved up to Springfield to go to school at Drury. Then went down to the University of Arkansas for law school, and now I'm back in Springfield practicing at Rooney, McBride and Smith. And we are a general practice firm. We're a full service firm where we have attorneys that do just about everything that needs to be done regarding litigation. I primarily work in domestic and family law, and really anything that deals with families or deals in the domestic realm, and try my best to work really hard for families. And dissolution's not pretty usually, and it's not a fun process to go through, but we do our best to make it as smooth as possible and help those people going through that situation.
Yeah, I think last time we talked. Who was here? We talked about bankruptcy.
That's Scott Smith.
Yeah. And I asked him, Scott. Yeah, and I asked him. I had an old college professor who said, a well-planned bankruptcy is like legal robbery without a gun. And I think he agreed somewhat. But a well-planned divorce could be very devastating to the spouse, I think.
It can. When you're going through a dissolution, you always want to be prepared. And I guess there is a difference between being prepared in a bad way and being prepared in a good way, because you really want to make sure that you have your ducks in a row before you go through a dissolution, if you have that opportunity. Lots of times you don't. Lots of times you get served with papers, and that's the sort of the bad divorce where, like, oh, by the way, you don't have any money in your account, or by the way, I've taken the kids, or by the way, you don't have a car to drive. But there is a right way to do it, or there is a better way to do it, in which there is some planning involved that really puts both parties in a situation where they can succeed and really move on successfully.
Yeah, that'd be ideal.
That is ideal, right? So
Yeah.
we're talking about the perfect world, and we don't see the perfect world lots of times, but sometimes we do. And certainly, preparing to go through that process helps you get a little bit closer.
So is blindsided divorce the most common, can I ask, or is, kind of the agreed we're going to go see it at somebody?
So most of the times, even though parties don't know specifically that a divorce is being filed, they know that it's coming. I don't think that I've really seen, I should say, I've seen very few cases in which someone comes in and says they don't even know it's coming. They don't know I'm going to get divorced, they don't know I'm leaving, and that's what's going to happen. Most of the time when I ask that question, does the other spouse know that you're doing this, and kind of what you guys talked about, most of the time they say, we've been unhappy for a while, and we are thinking about going through dissolution. We've talked about, if not the exact fleshing out, at least the skeleton of what that would look like. So blindsiding itself probably doesn't happen quite as often. Filing is usually done with at least the other side knowing that it may be on the horizon.
Yeah. And if it's on the horizon, there's things you need to do. Just give us a bird's eye view of some of the things, and we won't have time to talk about everything today, but some of the things to look at, when you're going through that planning process or when you're thinking, I think you're right. I don't think it's the blind side, and you've seen it, you see it coming. It's not going to be a complete blind side. So if the signs are there and you're having trouble, what are some of the things to think about?
Really what you need to do is be as prepared as possible going into it. And I'm talking more about the financial side of it, because there could probably be another whole 2 or 3 episodes on children and what you need to do with custody purposes. But on the financial side of things, really what you look at is what you have and what obligations you have. So assets and obligations are really something that you really need to pay attention to. Also budgeting. So when we're talking about when 2 people are living in the same household, what it looks like after a situation in which maybe they separate or eventually get a dissolution. So long-term planning as to what you need in order to really make your ends meet on a day-to-day basis, because things aren't going to be the same financially typically for you after a dissolution. So what you want to look at is your bank accounts, your retirement accounts, your IRAs if you do have those and have been collecting those for several different years, your personal property. Looking at those type of assets so you know what you have, and getting as many statements, bank statements, asset statements, so you have at least updated information. So know your property, and equally know your debt, because obligations are also very important for you to really know what you have to pay. So if you've got to pay a $1,500 house payment, I need to have $1,500 in some way, or we're going to get hit by a bank. Or if I've got a credit card over here and he's got a credit card, who's really going to be paying those debts? So know your obligations is also very important, because you want to make sure, and the court wants to make sure, that all your obligations are being satisfied. That you're not really sitting back and letting things go into default, because that helps nobody.
Right. And our number here is 862-9977, 1-800-375-0056 if you're outside of the 417 area code, 862-9977 if you're in the 417 area code. And this call is, this show's for you out there in the audience. If you have a question about divorce, give us a call, and Austin will be happy to answer your questions. When we talk about, how do you sit down, you write a budget, what should you have done before you talk to the attorney?
If you have the opportunity to really do that preparation before talking to an attorney, or even when you're going in to talk to an attorney, even if a divorce has already been filed, what we typically like to see are statements. Again, getting that, even if it was on just a manila piece of paper or whatever, just kind of what you think that your budget is. The court will typically require you to do something a little bit more formal. They'll do an income and expense sheet, which gets provided to both parties, in which they will spell out, they will say, this is my money in, this is my money out, and this is what I'm left with at the end of the month, to give the court somewhat of a flash of what your financial life looks like. But we like it when people come in and have that almost already done, or at least have, again, they're starting to flesh it out and say, these are the debts that we have, these are the assets that we have, and here are the statements to back those up. It's likely those things are going to need to be updated, and it's also likely we're going to need more. But getting your assets like titles, or if you have vehicles that you're going to have, or your house title and your mortgage, all those things are very important for an attorney to really know what the lay of the land is before they can fully advise what the best next step is financially for you to do in a dissolution.
So Austin, let's say, and Mary, if you're listening, this is not me, but I'm thinking about getting a divorce. And can I call up and say, hey, Austin, what do I need to bring in? Is that okay? You know, to say, can you tell me what I need to have? Because now we're talking about being proactive with who we are and what we're doing. Is that acceptable?
It absolutely is. If you call in and say, I'd like to schedule an appointment for dissolution consultations, and all of our consultations are free. And typically what we do is we talk to them, even if it's on the phone, even for a little bit, and bring them in to talk about what it is that we would need. And then if it's something that they would like to come in and meet with us, they can bring all that information in as well. But if you're calling in saying, what is it that I would really need to bring in, typically I always say, bring anything you think is important. I mean, anything that you think that has any sort of importance to you, bring it on in and I'll take a look at it. Because you know what your important documents are typically, and if you have it, you have it. If you don't, then you don't. Some people don't have access to their tax returns, which is fine. Some people do. But if you want to bring anything that you think is important in, we'll certainly take a look at it, and that does help us paint a picture.
Do you help along with the emotional stuff that goes along? I mean, I've not got divorced. I never have been, and that doesn't mean I love people and I have a lot of friends that have. But, you know, I know there's a lot of emotional times during this. Do you work with them as you develop this divorce strategy?
We do, yeah. And someone once said that if you were a counselor in the law, you may be doing your client a little bit of disservice, because you also kind of need to do a little bit more of counseling of the person as well. So even though you're there to give legal advice and there to try to help them through a situation in which hopefully is your wheelhouse, kind of helping them out through a dissolution, I think that it's very important that you also keep in mind that this is a very emotional time. This is a very time that is wrought with hurt feelings and anger and betrayal. And you need to focus on the situation and help the client focus on the situation, that it's not about those feelings. It's about trying to find some resolution that will put both parties in a situation that they can succeed in the future.
I'm not sure, and our number again is 862-9977. Come on, guys, I know you're afraid to call today, right?
You don't even have to tell us your name. Make up a name. That's going to be
You're
fun.
calling for a friend, all right? Okay, but here's my question, and it sounds like you're talking about almost a mediation role. I mean, does it usually work where the couple comes in and says, we want a divorce, help us work it out? Or do they get opposing attorneys and fight it out? How does that usually work?
So first and foremost, an attorney can represent only one party. So if a husband and wife come in, which sometimes happens, typically I don't like to do that at first, because I want to make sure that everyone really knows what the score is as far as who represents who. It's not atypical that only one attorney is involved in the case and prepares the paperwork for you. If the parties say, hey, listen, we've agreed to everything and here's what our agreement is, and they've got it all written down, then I'll look at it, and again, representing only one party, I will prepare the paperwork for both parties to look at and sign. So at the end of the day, both people are going to look at the paperwork. They've done the heavy lifting. They're saying, here's what we're doing for the credit cards, here's what we're doing for the bank accounts, here's what we're doing for the house and the vehicles and the kids, and the attorney's there to make sure that paperwork is done, so hopefully, it's legal and it's going to get signed by the judge. So if they come in and they say, we've come up with an agreement, and here's what our agreement is, then we would prepare the paperwork according to that agreement, so that both parties can look at it and say, yeah, this is my agreement, or no, it's not, and sign it or not, depending on what they want to do.
So there can be such a thing as an amicable divorce.
You know, lots of times there's amicable divorces. You know, you hear about the worst stories because they are the
Sensational.
Yeah, they are the sexiest stories, where people are taking chainsaws to their to the couches and whatnot. And that is not what you see on a regular basis. There are amicable divorces where people just say, we don't want to be together anymore, and it's not working out anymore, and we've tried this and we've tried that, and we just can't meet. We can't meet in the middle anymore. So there are things where parties do wish the other well, they just don't wish them to be married to them anymore. So,
I mean, in that case, I mean, I don't know if you can even tell us, but if there are, and I've met people like this. That's why I'm asking the question. Where there's a couple and they're friends, but they just know they're not supposed to be married anymore, and they just want a divorce.
Get your-
Maybe they don't have a lot of money. Is there a cheap way to get a divorce? I mean,
that's a yes and no answer. You are allowed to do divorces on your own. I mean, you can represent yourself in divorces, and so you don't have to get an attorney. It's not something that I usually recommend. Usually I say whether you hire me or whether you hire somebody else, hire somebody to do a little bit of work for you to make sure the paperwork is done correctly. And even though it is free to, for you to actually fill out the paperwork. It may be something that you don't know exactly what you're filling out. It's that old adage of, would you give yourself your own appendectomy? The answer to that, probably no, because that's not what you do. And I certainly wouldn't try to do my own heating and air or do my own taxes.
So, but as the expert, you can, like you said, be representative of one party, charge for the divorce, and you can do the paperwork and get it together.
Yes, that's correct.
And so then you'll know it's legal, and you're kind of in the best interest of both parties because they kind of know what they are wanting.
The parties really did the heavy lifting on that, so it's their agreement.
Well, guess what? We got another phone call. Marie, are you there?
Hi, Marie. So
I got to say up front, Austin's answer will be different than mine as a financial advisor.
But no, that's an excellent question. I'm glad you're stepping up for your friend.
The business, the jointly owned business, makes things a little bit dicey because there are operations that have to be done on, I would suspect, a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis that is going to require some ongoing communication or at least some ongoing work between the parties. Financially wise, really what she needs to do is try to get as much, again, be prepared and get as much information about the business, about what the assets are worth in the business, if there's any business accounts that she has right now. Try to get an accurate estimate or at least an accurate number about what those things are. Personally, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
We're talking income statement, balance sheets, bank statements, maybe even budgets if you have budgets for future years for the business, and things like that.
And that's exactly right. And typically, if you have a business, you are using usually a CPA, and that may be a good resource also to use in order to have some information about really what is out there and really what what the assets and obligations are, because usually you're getting some sort of credit for depreciation or a lot of the business inventory and gains and losses you're going to find on your tax return. Personally, if you're talking about what she can do, non-business related, what she can do to try to help herself, know her property. If it comes down to the fact that it looks like a dissolution is really in the offing and that it's going to happen, and it's just a matter of who files first or whatnot. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with setting up another bank account and starting to manage your money as if there is as if it was a single income going into that account. Typically, if you have joint accounts, those joint accounts are marital property. And like you said, they're commingled, which is a good word to say that basically every dime that goes in is both his and hers. So for every $10, $5 is his and $5 is hers, no matter who really put that money in. If you put the $10 in and wife didn't put any in or husband didn't put any in, you're still going to divide it 50-50. So when you're talking about marital property like that, you're talking about property that can typically be divided on their own. If a husband wanted to go in and take 100% of those assets, a bank's not going to stop them. A bank's not going to say, hey, listen, you need to leave 50% of that. So if that's something that she is worried about, if that's what anybody is worried about, I don't think there's anything wrong with starting your own bank account and splitting your assets at that time. Now, you need to keep a good accounting of that, and you may be asked to pay some of that back, but splitting assets 50-50 in bank accounts I don't think is going to get you in trouble with the court. It's certainly going to be something that you're going to need to keep an account of, but also is going to avoid somebody coming in and saying, well, I'm going to take 100% of the account. And you do see that where she can't really freeze an account in which she's a part of. So typically, banks are not going to say, well, she can't get access to it. But more commonly, what you might see is that there's $1 left in the account. When there was maybe $1,000, you have the minimum amount in there to keep the bank account open. So I don't. I advise that if that's really a concern, to start a new bank account. So there's where you get it to be a little bit dicey in the fact that lots of times when you're putting money from a business or out of a business, those are going to pay business expenses. So you don't, for every $1 you put in an account, typically you don't get to put that $1 into your own bank account. Maybe you get to put a quarter of it because 75% is going to, overhead or to bills or employees or whatever. So you want to make sure that your business is not going to be put in a situation where it's going to fail. So if it's that, if taking that money out of the account is going to make that the business obligations are not getting paid, that's something that really needs to be considered before that happens. Because you want to make sure your business keeps going because that's going to be better for both parties. So a court can look at assets. They can certainly look at what happens with marital assets and try to do the best they can do to try to equalize missing assets. So, sometimes you see situations in which right before a divorce, all of a sudden money is being dissipated, assets are disappearing, obligations are increasing, and then a divorce happens, and then everyone's put in a much worse position, or at least one party typically is put in a worse position. The court can take a look at that and decide really what they can do to help equalize those payments. There's not going to be a perfect fix because lots of times when that money's gone, it may be gone. But the court can certainly look at it when it tries to divide, when it eventually and ultimately tries to divide up the assets. That's certainly a consideration the court can make. Typically, when you file a divorce, in most counties, and Greene County is certainly one of them, we have what's called an interim domestic relations order. And I always call that sort of a be good order where the court's telling you don't be terrible to your other spouse and don't take the kids and most importantly, don't take away assets and don't rack up debt because that is going to affect the dissolution. So once a divorce is filed, then typically there is a hold on what parties can do, and the courts are much more able to bring assets back. So if a dissolution was filed and then all of a sudden the bank account is emptied and we don't know where it is, the court has a lot more ability to say, hey, you need to bring that back because it happened after dissolution.
So it sounds to me like what you're saying is if you're really concerned about that happening, or if it's already, you see it starting to happen, it's time to file for divorce because your assets are only protected after the date of the filing.
They do become more protected. And, there's nothing wrong with trying to reconcile a marriage. And, I'm not trying to press, get divorced, get divorced, get divorced. But it does put a moratorium on some of the things that happen, or at least gives the court a little bit more ability to protect the person when that interim domestic relations order is in place.
So when you say, you could take, let's say you do have a joint account with 1,000.
So thank you, Marie. Do we answer your question?
Oh, Marie, do we answer your question?
Okay.
Well, that's good. And I'm going to give you, this is, his name's Austin Williamson. Their phone number is 417-708-9681. He will talk to someone, so you could always have her call in and talk, or on your behalf just to talk to him. I'm sorry, it is 417-708-9681. And you can always have her give him a call to do that. So
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you so much, Marie, and I'm sorry. All right, what I was going to say is, so let's say that they're in that situation. If they have a business, that may be one of the few times, like John was saying, you may consider getting the divorce to kind of keep the, I own a business with my wife. We're 50% owners on it. I'm not worried about this situation. Mary, be listening, because the chainsaw won't be to the couch in my sense. But you know what I'm saying. But I could see, I get what you're saying. That may be a little more protection, especially if there's a lot of money involved in your business.
There is. And lots of times people do see the writing on the wall. And I think it's very hard to take that first step into filing a dissolution. And again, if you can reconcile your marriage, terrific. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think that's really the course you should take, and to see if you have, at the end of the day, you can say, well, I put, everything on the field and, kind of left it all there. But if the writing's on the wall, if things aren't going well, if you think that you are going to go through a dissolution, you're worried about some of that property disappearing, there's not a reason not to file. Because you file a dissolution doesn't mean you have to actually go through a dissolution. So even though the paperwork has been filed, it can be dismissed. So if that's something that you're really concerned about, certainly that can be remedied.
Well, just real quick, I just see something in your notes about insurance, health, life, and car. I don't see we only have a few minutes left, but just briefly, what do we have to be aware about it with that?
So in relation to the domestic relations order, once that order is in place, typically no one can really drop another person from their insurance. You're really supposed to keep the status quo as much as possible. So if a dissolution is filed, typically you're not going to lose your health insurance at that time. However, after the dissolution is filed, at least for health insurance, typically if you're on the other spouse's employer's income, usually you're not going to be able to continue to be covered. So even though during the pendency of the divorce where your car insurance, your health insurance, or maybe some life insurance is being covered, you really need to start looking into what that cost is going to be, even though you don't have that cost right now.
So the budget effect.
Yeah,
budget.
that's exactly correct.
I think that's good, because that would help a young man or young lady or older that knows, but here's what it's actually going to cost me. This
That's right.
may not be.
Yeah, that is exactly right.
Guys, to do that, we've really appreciated you being here, Austin, today with us.
Well, thank you.
And hopefully we'll see how things are and see you guys again. That's Rooney, McBride, and Smith, your full service legal firm. Heather, they're all there. And I don't know what happened. I just lost it. Your phone number is 417?
It's 708-9681.
9681.
That's right.
So give them a call, talk to them, even if you just got a couple questions. Always do the same thing. John, our host, he's always looking for your call. He's always got. There's your card. Where's your phone number, John?
I never call myself.
I know, but I should know your number by now to do that. But give John a call. He's at JD.
I'm over at PB Advisors.
DB Advisors.
Douglas Bagwell Advisors. Just Google us and ask for me.
Yeah, 763-3345.
Or you can call me at
Or you can call him there, and you can let him know what's going on. To do that, we've also got Gayla Scrivener. You can always give Gayla Scrivener a call or go to her website. She does a lot of things through that. That's at scrivenersolutions.com. Her phone number is 279-6009. And I'm here with you another week, at least, until John throws me off. I'm Gary Bingaman with AD Mechanical, Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Give us a call if you do have a problem. We can do it all. We can take care of you. And to do that, we still got 30 seconds.
Well, thank you, Joe and Marie, for calling today. That always makes the show more interesting when we get people to call in and ask for help.
And hopefully you can help those people. I'm glad to hear that when someone has care about somebody else.
Come back next week.
Yeah, 3 o'clock. It's Your Money Radio, where you can make more money, you can have more money, you can save more money for all your financial goals. And you know what? It wasn't right again. Bye, guys. Have a great week.